Okay. Hello. All right. Apologies for being a bit late. Now we can get right into things where we left off last time. Yeah, so I believe last time we left off with looking at this damage for the single action abilities here. And we got a pretty good curve here to sort of establish the basis for our like damage, expected damage values. However, that's not everything that should go into this. We should start to think about how over the course of the entire round, since I'm making the abilities able to be used together, like the attack roll techniques can be used with a save and throw technique typically. So that means that we really need to look over the course of the entire round, as the save and throw techniques, of course, don't have a multiple attack penalty, which is an advantage that they have over the fighters and the rogues and the rangers. So, two things on the to-do list. One is to look at the rogue, fighter, and ranger and their expected damage over the course of an entire round. And then we have the Runecaster to look at. And maybe I'll also switch over to looking at the reworked wizard that I have been working on over the past few days. So, how to approach this? Well, I would like to borrow the things that I did for the fighter, rogue, and ranger. And since we can kind of just add these numbers together. All right, I need to just remember here what I was doing. So it looks like we have a damage value times their chance to hit. And then, did I do this properly? I did not. We established last time that I was subtracting numbers incorrectly. Level 9 versus, or 9 to hit versus AC 16. You're 3 above. So you can roll, what, a 17, 18, 19, 20. That is 4. What is going on here? Ah. That's what it is. So I should calculate the chance to crit first, and then use that to calculate the chance to hit. I think that'll be the best way to do this. Okay. Yeah, let me just make sure that I didn't do things incorrectly here. So against 18 AC. Yeah, this is consistent at least. If you roll a 17, that is a 28. Okay. Just think that the hit chances are a little strange. So their chance to hit is that. Doesn't make too much sense. I'm just thinking that it should only be up to it should be 55% chance for success. Yeah. I definitely did something wrong here. So I know that this is fine. This is the chance for all successes, which is basically AC minus the to hit equals your chance of success. Oh, that would make sense. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. All is good. Okay. However, this is definitely not correct, right? J3. Yep. Okay. Their expected damages are a lot lower. Same thing here. Oh yeah, things are really starting to change. There we go. This is fixing the problem that I was seeing before. All right. This kind of fixes my thoughts on what was going on with the early game. I was curious as to why the discrepancy was so large, but it's good that I caught that this early before it really got bad. All right. Now we can just add this border back in. All right. It is surprising that you pretty much always have a decent chance to hit. yeah, I guess you always have, yeah, that chance to hit. Not bad. Yep, 18 and 20. Yep, looks good. Okay. Now that we have fixed that, I can see that the Runecaster attack roll is in an interesting spot where there are some levels to where it's definitely dangerously close to the marshals. However, if I were to go over to the sheet and say, try a set of damage values that scales off of a d4 instead, how much would that really affect things? Okay. Oops. Oof, that is substantially less. And I guess that makes sense because you're cutting the damage in half. Or not in half, you're cutting the damage by like over 20%. The early game isn't impacted by that much, but the late game is heavily impacted. Well, this is something to consider as we start to look at the martial damage and see how it's going to compare over an entire round instead. Because we have to account for the saving throw abilities of our Runecaster. All right. Looks like I did everything correct and proper here. Yeah, so I think I can do this. I believe an idea that I had here was that I started out with the spellcasting ability modifier and then added a d4 from then on out. Which is something that I could possibly try for our attack roll based techniques, for sure. It would give a lot more reliability and bump up the damage in the early game, because this is quite pitiful, especially compared to the rest of everybody else. But alright, let's look at our marshals. This is... I don't need these tables anymore, necessarily, but... Alright. So we can, for level, fighter, ranger, one did I have in the middle? Road. We can basically copy this and then just take into account some things. All right. There's definitely a way to fix this, but oh well. This will work just fine. So we can merge these together and then make it nice and center. Okay. So, let's take a look here. All right. So when looking at this stuff, basically need to subtract the to hit by 5 on everything, and then basically copy these formulae here. And that, I believe, will do it. It's just a matter of me figuring out how to make Google Sheets. Oh, nope. That's not quite right. Format only. Nope. Values only, condition formatting only. Nope. Yeah, I guess I don't know how to do that. Where this will stay constant when I copy and paste it over. But I guess I can just copy and paste the top cells and then just drag them down. And that will work just as well. So, since I'm basing everything off of the crit and the AC, I will have to fix those crit formulas as well. Let's take a look here. Put that in and expand it down. And then last but not least, the Ranger. Okay. Drag that down. All right. So we also need to take into account subtracting the 5 on the hit side and the crit side. So we can kind of go back and forth on this So immediately, this is our base chance of success here, and not differentiating between critical success and success. But if we take our to hit bonus, basically we'll take our armor class and basically add 5 to it. That's the base, that's the equivalent. That is essentially applying our multiple attack penalty. And once we do that, we can now recalculate our critical hit chance, which is just max between this minus 0.5 and 0.05. So obviously all of our crit chances are probably going to be 0.5. And I can actually probably extend this over like so. All right, that makes sense. It's very hard to crit on your second attack. All right, so now this is the overall chance of success. So now we have to find the actual chance of success by subtracting the crit chance. Though that might cause some recursive issues. So let's take this, copy it, and then paste in the values. Minus our chance to crit. And we get our new, oh, whoops. Sorry, I need to do this first. Yep, now that's looking good. Let me add in the multiple attack penalty here. And get rid of that part there. Since these are ranged weapons, so the weapons I have them using are fairly optimal. The fighter has a composite longbow, the rogue has a short bow, and the ranger has a composite longbow. Since these techniques are ranged attacks, most of the time I'm comparing to ranged attacks of martials. So yeah, the rogue, the ranger don't have agile on those weapons. Yeah. Also, welcome. We're just vibing here and having a good time. So I could verify that the crit chance for these is 0.5, but just looking at the hit chances of these guys, it's definitely the same over here. I am slightly curious as to why. Ah, that would be why. I forgot something. So basically what I'm doing here is that I'm accounting for the chance to crit, if you were not watching before. Because basically what this original formula is calculating the chance of overall success. Once you do that, you need to then find the chance of your actual chance of success and your actual chance of critically succeeding. And so that is what I've done here. Now, just a quick verification. The Ranger and the Fighter are 10% chance apart on the success, which makes sense because Fighter has a +2 to hit compared to the Rogue or Ranger. All right, and now with this, it's pretty easy to find our expected damage on the second attack from each of these characters here. There will be, I will have to quickly look up things that would potentially allow a fighter to attack twice, like double shot, and not suffer a full multiple attack penalty. But this does require them to shoot at 2 different targets, which isn't really what I'm caring about at the moment. Now, I know that Ranger has Twin Strike, but I'm not sure if that applies to ranged attacks. Twin Takedown, that's what it is. Okay, you have to be wielding 2 melee weapons. So, looks like that isn't too relevant to the Precision Ranger either. There is also Hunter's Aim. Though that cannot be done round 1. Well, for our case, because we're seeing how well it works for 2 attacks, which is basically what a martial is going to do in a round, is make 2 attacks. If you're making 3 attacks, that's really rough, as the statistics here can show you. If I subtract another 25% off of these, your chance to hit is pretty terrible. So, we can look at... You can actually just copy what I have here. We just take the J3 and M3 and change those. To instead... Oh man, I shifted this off by 1. That's gonna bug people. All right. Okie dokie. As we can see, the average expected damage value of a fighter attacking a second time is very pitiful compared to the first time. Like even at level 20, you're looking at roughly a third of the damage that you're expecting from compared to your first attack. Yeah. But the great thing about Pathfinder is that you normally have other things to do other than just swinging multiple times. Okay, now we can do the same for Rogue. But instead of K3, L72, N3, we have O72. Yep. Interestingly enough, man, I'm getting mixed up between editions here. Rogues get sneak attacks off on every attack that they make against a flat-footed creature. not just the first strike. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So now we do the ranger, which actually, it's pretty funny to see the ranger, at least on their first attack, pretty consistently outperforms the fighter, except at certain level ranges, but yeah. Definitely an amazing class is Ranger. All right, get rid of the F3, plug in this. Now Ranger, Precision Ranger, is a bit more complicated. I don't think I can include the precision damage on the second attack for Ranger. Yeah, the first time you hit a hunted prey in a round, it's 1d8 precision damage. At 11th level, okay. By level 17, the second time you can deal 1d8 damage. So basically I need to go through here and get rid of any mention of the 4.5. Now, this doesn't make quite a whole lot of sense. Composite longbow, composite longbow. You should not have more damage than the fighter on the second attack for sure. What did I do wrong here? Never look at the same weapon. Oh, I messed up. There's a ×2 here. That would help. All right, that's making more sense. Wow, poor rogue, even with the sneak attack dice, can't even match a composite longbow. Hello. How's it going? All right. Yeah, let's just, nope. Let's close this in like this. That way it's a little easier on the eyes. Can we zoom in a little bit again? All right, so this is our expected damage for the second attack for the fighter, rogue, and ranger, except I have to make a slight modification to the ranger here. Level 17, they get their masterful upgrade, which allows them to benefit from their precision damage on their second attack. At 19th level, I'll have to change it to 2d8, and then we don't really care about third hit to round in these scenarios, I don't think. Most of the time, marshals are attacking twice, not 3 times, even at high levels. Does this look good? Yes. All right. Then we can put this down. Then here, get up to 2d8, which is 9 average damage. And okay. Easy enough. All right. So we have this chart here. Which is the fighter, rogue, ranger, and runecaster. First attack. Now let's take a look at a chart where we have the first and second attack added together, and then we'll compare that to the attack and saving throw technique of a runecaster, and that'll give us a good idea of damage per round. All right. So I hate how Google Sheets is so hard to navigate. It isn't helping that I'm zoomed in very deeply. No, I need to like double click on one of these. Where? I am blind here. Series? No. Ah, yes, okay. So let's remove all series. Then we can add one here. Let's try that again. I need to zoom out slightly so we can actually see. There we go. Add series, the rogue, add series. The ranger. I was just curious as to how these looked. All right, that's pretty neat. Very similar curves. You see the giant spike later in the game when the ranger hits its edge benefit much later due to the second attack. All right. Now let's actually plot their total damage. Which will just be, take a look at the level 1 through 20. We'll copy these. All right. So we now have our grand total. This plus this. All right. I believe we can just stretch this across. and then bring it down. Wow, Precision Ranger really spikes hard late game. Very cool. Let's look at this again. Setup. And let's just remove all the series and let's throw these in. Okay. All right. Very interesting. It's odd to me how like the curves kind of smooth out over the course of attacking multiple times. But okay. We can take a look. That's a weird data point. What happens at level 7? Oh, it's level 7 wherein they get weapon specialization. That's right. I forgot about weapon specialization for all of these. I need to go in and add those. This is the unfortunate, very tedious part, but we're gonna make it through it. I swear. So, level 7 is when everybody's getting their specialization. Or level 6? Yeah, level 7. Level 7. So let's go through. Add in that +2. But for fighter, it's +3. My bad. It should be the same all the way up until level 15. Or is it 13? Yeah, I get. Okay, 15 is when they increase their weapon specialization, 13 is when they increase their proficiency. So 13, they go to legendary. And then 15, basically double this damage. All right, I thought that damage looked a little low. These guys just get a +2, and then +2. That applies all the way up until level 13, and it increases to +3. I just realized that the sneak attack dice do not scale for the rogue either. I'll have to fix that as well. Level 7. Same for you up until level 16, and then we'll modify this. At this point, they're at +3, +3. From 13 till 16. We have the +3 here, +3 here. Okay. Oops. All right. All right, so this makes more sense. Yeah, it does make sense that overall the fighter's still outputting more damage than the Precision Ranger. Though the Ranger has other tricks, I'm just being very basic in my analysis here. It gets very complicated once you add other actions into play. But when you're doing something basic as hunt prey, attack for Ranger, and then just attack on fighter, and then Rogue is doing something to get flat-footed and then attack. This is the way to go. All right. Okay, so these damage numbers make sense. Now I just need to have the Runecaster here, which I believe is this plus this. I'll have to check. Yeah, 2.86 and then 1.35. If I switch over, 2.86 and 1.35. All right. Take a look at our setup here. Add in the final column. Okay, yeah. So we managed to definitely stifle the early game of the Runecast, where as levels go on, their damage kind of explodes out of control. By doing Runecasting attack technique plus Runecasting save technique. Really taking advantage of the no multiple attack penalty there. All right. So, the question becomes what to adjust. I did not expect it to be that overwhelmingly above. After adjusting the Runecasting technique to 1d4, I thought that would help things enough, but it appears that the Runecasting save technique being scaling the way that it is currently is probably a little too good. Question is, what different scaling would change things around? Do we just make this also a 1d4? Which would be, well, basically this scaling here. Which I believe, yeah, is this damage here. So if I change this to, instead of H, do this instead and drag it down. That is quite a bit tamer but still a little scary. In the early game, they are able to stay below the marshals. And then from levels like 13 until 15, they are able to stay below the marshals. But from 15 onward, things continue to explode out of control. The saving throw runecasting techniques are a saving throw by default. So basically we're looking at 2 actions out of the fighter, rogue, and ranger, and 3 actions out of the runecaster. One can make the argument, oh, it's 3 actions versus 2, so of course it's going to be higher. However, marshals aren't really going to be, they aren't really going to want to attack 3 times. They're also going to get less out of attacking 3 times than a runecaster will get out of attacking with a runecasting technique and using a saving throw technique, because I am planning on having the runecasting techniques actually do something on a hit. So, for example, if we scroll all the way up to Crackle. Crackle is a technique attack roll, like a spell attack roll against the target's AC. So it's an attack roll technique, 1 action. And when you hit the enemy, you deal a status foot penalty to their speeds for 1 round. So you're getting something a little extra on top of the damage, which marshals don't normally get without runes. Which, I guess this math isn't taking into account property runes, which would change this math a bit, I think. It would change it quite significantly. All right, what is an optimal rune? What are the optimal runes for ranged characters for damage? There's, of course, the typical elemental runes, but maybe there's some more that were released in Treasure Vault that I'm not aware of. Jump to a weapon. Okay. What is this? Okay, that doesn't matter. A basket? Okay. Wait, no. Let's look at weapon property runes. Okay. Is Fanged? No, that doesn't work for us. Bane? Not really. Earthbinding. Disrupting. Fearsome. Shifting. Energizing. They could go wounding, which is an extra 1d6 persistent bleed damage. That complicates things, but luckily I know the math for persistent damage. Then there's the flaming, the frost. Okay. Gonna have to think about this for a moment. Weapon potency +2 is at level 10. I guess you would put wounding on your bow until, say, until the next level, where you would put the flaming rune on it if you wanted to maximize damage. And then, is there anything after that that is particularly wonderful. 1d6 force damage. Interesting. Serrating. That is a slashing weapon. Anarchic. That's still 1d6. 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 Alright, it's probably just going to be the greater flaming. Does it really not increase? Huh. For some reason I thought I increased the die of the property rune. Oh, is wounding a melee weapon? Yep, wait, melee weapon. My bad. Yeah, so it'd just be level 8, you put flaming on it. And then you just put another, or you put the greater flaming and then like greater shock. Whatever it would be. And then is there anything else that deals damage once you hit level 16? I guess you could put a third elemental rune on it. Does Vorpal do? I don't think I really want to consider Vorpal. Interesting. Okay, so it's basically an additional d6 damage and then a 1d10 persistent at level 8. Where... Okay. This is going to be more complicated by the minute. 14.5. Now does a flaming rune... Okay, it does. It's an additional 1d10 on crit. It doesn't turn into a 1d10. Good to know. Plus 5.5 times... If it's persistent, you multiply it by like 2.2. I'd have to go check. Where is the persistent damage calculation? If you expect it to go off for 3 rounds, it's a 50-50 chance. Would 3 rounds be reasonable? We'll go with the tempered estimation. Go with 2. All right. So this proceeds until level 10. So we're level 8 right now, 9, 10. Where level 10, you would add another property rune that deals 1d6. And that will proceed until you upgrade your runes at level 15. So oh, that's 1 too far, I think. Yep, 1 too far. Huh. Oh, these need to be changed still. Or this, actually, this will still be increased by 1, but whatever. At level 15. Man, that's insane. Level 15, this increases to 2d10. It's an average of 11. And this, we get our +3 at level 16. So 5 plus 325. Oh man, I messed this up. Let's see how far back I can go. Okay. Ooh, we are running up into time here. But judging by the fact that I forgot property runes, I think once I add them in, this will look a lot more acceptable. You'll just have to be very careful with giving runecasters any damage buffs whatsoever. And I guess before I do that, that can be something that we show earlier in the stream next week. I can give an insight as to the wizard stuff that I've been working on. So the first class that I'm sort of migrating runecasting over to is the wizard, as it's just like the most vanilla and flavorless class. Out of all the casters, it doesn't have any sort of like weight attached to it other than they're a prepared arcane caster. So what I did is that I redid all of the arcane spell casting into arcane rune casting. Essentially how I am seeing them work is that they will start out with the 3 basic runes, which are these runes in this list, which have roughly 3 to 5 techniques per rune. So they can max out at like 15 techniques with their permanent runes. And then they also choose a temporary additional rune for the day that they prepare out of the entire list. And this is how I'm sort of going to simulate prepared casting in this system. So that they're going to have their basic set of runes, or their permanent set of basic runes, and then they will be able to pick and choose a rune or two during their daily preparations. And then, of course, as they increase in level, their runes will increase in strength. They'll get greater runes at level 7 when they get expert spellcasting, and then major when they upgrade to master spellcasting at level 15. And then this is the typical stuff for rolling spell attack rolls and your spellcasting DC. It's just the same thing, but for techniques. Evolving techniques is an advantage of this system as opposed to spellcasting, because it basically works a similar way, to where heightened, you increase the spell level to get additional effects. Evolve is pretty much the exact same, except everything is based off of your character level instead of spell levels. Because of that, there's a lot more flexibility in the scaling of these techniques, which is another thing that I can consider as a knob to turn to balance the damage side of things. So normally a typical damaging spell would heighten every 1 spell level or every 2 spell levels, which would convert to every 2 levels or every 4 levels. There's no every 3 character levels or every there's not even every 1 character level. I'm not sure what technique would scale with every single character level, but maybe I can make one eventually. It just allows for more finer balancing of certain techniques. Like Evolve +3 is impossible to do with the current spellcasting system. So yeah, they can evolve techniques just like a wizard can heighten spells. They just learn a technique and then they are able to evolve it to their up to their character level, which sorcerers will be able to do as well. And other spontaneous spellcasters. Rune script is basically their spell book, which allows them to prepare the temporary runes. And then the arcane bond is essentially going to be a little fortune effect, which I should add in fortune here, to their runecasting skill check. That way they can try to maximize the output of their magic. So the dangerous question is that, okay, so wizards and these prepared these prepared casters have the ability to sort of pick and choose whatever techniques they want, and there's no like restriction on heightening, or they have a lot of freedom. So the question is, what do spontaneous casters get that prepared casters will not? And the plan is to essentially give the prepared casters less greater and major runes. So they will be wider in power. They'll have more basic runes than any of the spontaneous casters. However, the spontaneous casters may have 4 basic runes at the start, and that's it. But all 4 basic runes will go all the way up to major. While a prepared caster might only get 1 up to major, and then the other 2 are stuck at greater. And that is sort of the plan forward with how these different casters are going to differentiate themselves from each other, with the 2 main archetypes of prepared and spontaneous. So it really fits the bill of spontaneous really becomes a specialist, and the prepared really fits the bill of a versatile caster. Well, in the current Vancing system, there's this weird mix of spontaneous are kind of more versatile sometimes, while the prepared casters have like long-term flexibility and versatility, while in the moment, spontaneous have that weird spike in versatility. So yeah, I think this is a good approach to how I'm going to handle things, but this will of course have to be play tested and looked at by players and GMs alike to see if it's enjoyable and if it's fun. The plan is, of course, there are the arcane theses missing from here, but I already have plans for a few of them. Of course, the familiar kind of can just stay in. Familiars, I'll just have to write a couple new familiar abilities to replace like spell battery and such, but spell delivery can just literally get reflavored to technique delivery. That won't require much change at all, but something like spell substitution might affect how many basic runes that you start out with. You might start with 2 permanent basic runes and then 2 temporary runes that you can prepare each day. And your amount of temporary runes that you can prepare increases. And then maybe, depends on how wild I want to get with this, but maybe a spell substitution wizard at level 20 can have like 12 temporary runes that they can prepare each day. So basically they're choosing which runes they don't prepare rather than the runes they do prepare. Stuff like spell blending is going to be difficult to convert over because vertical strength I'm really trying to temper down on prepared casters. That allows wizard to get to the top technique. Depends on what you mean by top technique. Have you talked about major? They will get major runes by default, but it'll probably only be 1. Just to really emphasize wizards are a generalist, not a specialist. Same with the other prepared casters. Maybe the spell blending can forego. Maybe you lose access to some of the temporary runes that you can prepare in order to get more greater and major runes. That is something that I will have to think about. And Staff Nexus is also complicated because I know what wands are going to do. Wands are essentially going to be the potency runes of the spellcasters. Not for attack rolls and DCs, but for the rune casting checks. This will allow them an easy access item. That way they're not searching for an item that allows them to get a bonus to athletics if they're an earth caster. And the wands will have little tiny bonus effects that will make them unique from wand to wand. The staff, I am considering having them contain what are called combination techniques, where essentially you combine 2 runes to replicate a more powerful or more unique effect, similar to how staves and advancing spellcasting contain spells. I think that combination technique path is what I'm leaning towards. And then from that angle, it's easy to sort of convert the staff nexus over because it's essentially build a staff. From what I recall of the wizard. If I can take a look here. Yeah, makeshift staff, and I have a cantrip and a first level spell. It'll require some adjustment because there are no resources. You may just be able to prepare an additional combination technique within the staff. While the metamagic experimentation is probably just going to get... maybe I will combine the staff nexus and metamagic experimentation together into one. Because the metamagics are essentially covered by combination techniques. Like if one wanted the reach spell, they would just use the reach rune to expand their spell or their technique in different ways. If they wanted to maybe intensify a technique in some way, they could use the enhance rune. There are many different ways to approach this. And I think the metamagic experimentation is kind of a cute subclass for wizard, but it's fairly minor in its effect compared to something like spell substitution or spell blending, which is very prevalent very often in wizard gameplay. So I think combining the two of metamagic experimentation and staff nexus might be the best approach. All right. Well, everyone, I think that concludes today's stream. I think I need to go eat something. I have not eaten dinner yet. So yeah, I thank everyone for watching and enjoying this math talk as well as some design insights of what runecasting is going to look like. And yeah, it's been fun. I hope everybody has a good evening and a good night. And I will see everyone next week. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.